Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time each and every week and spending it with us right here on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, news reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again to the show, and joined this week by owner, operator, publisher, ne'er-do-well, Ken Waddell, a man of many hats.
Just one. Just one hat.
That's right. So this week, and before we get too in-depth into this week's paper, I say with a touch of irony, I'm going to explain the story behind the stories of the paper, or let's be honest, the lack thereof. Now, if you pick up a copy, and we do always, each and every week, appreciate you taking your time and picking up a physical copy anywhere in and around Neepawa, or if you're not in the area, going on to mywestman.ca and seeing a version of it on there. We appreciate that support all the time. And every week we try and bring you all the information we can of Neepawa and the surrounding area. But this week it was, to say the least, a challenge. And you're going to see that on the pages, the 16 pages. And there is a very specific reason why. And I'm sure maybe you've been impacted by it. Maybe family members, friends have been impacted by it. This flu bug that has been going everywhere across Neepawa and the surrounding area. I'm sure you've heard stories at work somewhere about so-and-so is out, or an entire staff was out, or an entire classroom was out. Well, last week was the Neepawa Banner Press's turn to have everybody out. I was not here for a good portion of last week. In fact, last week's newspaper, which very proud of what we were able to put together with that. But the last day of putting it on the page and all that, I was only here for a few hours. I slept in late. I came in, got some stuff done, got it sent off to our printers, and then got the heck out of the office because I was just impacted significantly by that flu.
You were, and so was Casper a day or two later.
Yeah, as well. Casper Werehan has been out essentially. I'm sure a little bit, not too much, but has been out for the week. I was out for about 4 or 5 days. And we've also had other staff up front that have been impacted as well. That have been hit with the flu bug in one way or another. This is, let's not mince words, this is a very bare bones edition of the Neepawa Banner Press. This is not one we're going to put on the best of list for the year 2022. But still, we were able to get some information. And there's a reason we were able to get some of this information. And quite honestly, it's because the individuals who stepped up back in 1989 stepped up once again in 2022. In the form of Ken and Christine Waddell. You're going to see their names, their bylines, their photo credits throughout, consistently and thoroughly throughout this week's edition of the newspaper. So very much, you guys can step up and do the job when you want to.
Well,
man, that concerns me greatly about my job security.
No, don't worry about your job security. I'll tell you, Chris and I were happy enough to do that, but we sure weren't happy that everybody was sick. One day we had at least 4 people out, and that's a big hole in the staff, and I just felt so sorry for them. And I'd like to say, well, I don't ever get sick, but in the last 2 years I've been in the hospital 4 different times for a week at a time, and you guys did fine without me. But I just want to share something personal this morning, because we do have a bit of extra time here today, I think. And some readers will maybe appreciate this, but I was hospitalized 4 times in the last 2 years, and I was talking to the surgeon last night, actually, on the phone. He phoned me for his annual checkup, and it's 2 years since I had surgery on my kidney, and they took out a golf ball sized growth off my kidney 2 years ago. But I was in the hospital with something else about 3 days after I got out with that surgery. And then 2 or 3 months later, I was in the hospital for another week with something else. And then this summer was something else again down in the States. And so I got a call from the surgeon, and he said, everything you went through this summer, which was pretty serious, because my heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys were all severely compromised. And he said, everything's clear, Ken. Everything's clear. There's no trace of cancer. There never has been from the kidney surgery, and everything else is clear. So that was pretty good news to get last night, and I'm pretty elated with that. And unfortunately, Eoin, I'm going to may well be here for a few more months or a few more years. So, you'll have to put up with me one way or another. But
oh, geez, now I don't feel so brave about powering through that flu for half a day. Now I'm just seem like a whiner. So.
No, you guys were probably sicker, truth be known, feeling sicker and feeling worse than I ever did with my symptoms that I had, except maybe for a couple of days last summer in Kansas City North Hospital, where I was on a power oxygen mask, not a ventilator, but a power oxygen mask for 2 days. I was having an awful time getting my breath there, but got it fixed, and deep breathing exercises and oxygen. I was able to walk out of the hospital and have my wife drive me home. So that's all cleaned up now, apparently. All that infection, all that stuff is supposedly, like, I lost 20% of my heart capacity, 30% of my liver and kidney capacity over that time frame, but fortunately it was temporary. Right. And I'm back to supposedly 100% for a 74-year-old fat man.
That's the thing as well. I mean, sometimes we take our health for granted, and sometimes we feel like maybe we're a little indestructible, and that is not the case, whether it's something that has to do with just a cold or a flu or anything like that, or something much more serious, as Ken delved into. So take care of yourself. Look after those that you care about as well. I mean, this type of season, it's something that seems mundane as the flu. But the flu is influenza. And quite honestly, let's remember, okay, I wasn't around for 1917, but let's remember the influenza epidemic of 1917 wasn't nothing to sneeze. All right, that was not meant as a joke in any way. Yeah. I was about to say nothing to sneeze at. That was not meant to make lighthearted of that. All right, I'm just saying, take care of yourself out there, and don't be a hero. If you're not feeling the best, don't be a hero. Don't power through. Take care of what needs to be taken care of, and then get back at it.
Yeah, we do have a couple of holes in our healthcare system, I guess, but when it's an emergency, if it's urgent, you get pretty good care, pretty fast care in Manitoba. And not so much if you're on the waiting list for something. But just so you know, my 5 days in Kansas City North Hospital, the bill was $45,000 and climbing. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we have healthcare insurance, and it's all covered, every penny of it.
And Canadian healthcare insurance, because quite honestly, American healthcare insurance, I have family that are down there, and fortunately they're with some reputable organizations and whatnot, but they know friends. They have friends down there that the first sign of trouble, they don't step up to the plate like they should be. And that is just horrible to have some type of worry like that on your mind when you're dealing with it. Like, let's not take what we have up here for granted. Yeah. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. If you've been reading Ken's columns over the years, and he's talked about it from time to time, he's shown very specific examples of it not being perfect, but it's working in a way that is, for the most part, helping us as a society. There's people that fall through, obviously, in every system, but more or less, it seems to be working. I'd love it to be perfect. I'd love it to be improved. I'd love it that people don't have 8 to 10 hour waits at emergency rooms. But, one step at a time. And actually, we've gone on long enough about us growing old and getting a little tired and the back starting to hurt a little bit, Ken. Let's get into some of the news that you and Chris were able to track down. And right as always, it begins with the front page. A wonderful picture for the quilt show, the 25th anniversary quilt show, Tangled Threads. That was something Christine was able to get that picture of, and obviously has a very important connection to, isn't it?
Yeah, Christine, my wife, has been part of the Tangled Threads Quilt Club for quite a number of years, and she was part of the organizing committee for this 25th anniversary show, which got delayed 2 years. It was actually in their 27th year they were able to get together and celebrate it.
Yep.
And they had the Presbyterian church pews, which are beautiful old wooden pews, all draped with dozens and dozens of quilts. Some of them are historical ones, legacy ones that are made by people who are even passed away, and certainly some former members, but a lot of current members as well. And they had what they called a bed turning, which is they have a big pile of quilts at the front of the church, and twice they did it. You can see it on the video on Facebook, where they turn each quilt and tell a little story about the person who made it. They had one little unfortunate thing happen at the quilt show. They had 3 quilts out on display on a clothesline out front, and one that was made for a child 21 years ago by one of the quilters was taken. We won't say stolen, but it was taken, and they're still looking for it. Perhaps the person who took it thought they were for free because they were hanging out in the front yard, but it was inside the courtyard, inside the fence. So the plea has gone out. If it was taken inadvertently, please return it, and they'll be happy to replace it with a good quilt, because it isn't the best condition anymore. It's 21 years old. And if it was stolen, well, get it back to us, and nothing will be done or said, is what the quilt people have said. But it was a great show, and it was good I think the ladies were energized by the fact that they were able to have a public event again, and it was part of a great weekend in town. We'll talk a little bit about the rest of the weekend in town later in the show here, but it was a real good anchor event. So
That's right. Those are the types of little things, and we've talked about this right here on the show many a time throughout this year, about having these types of events and the significance that it means to be able to get together, to assemble in that way once again. You don't realize how much it matters until it gets taken away. And it has been taken away for the last couple years. Again, as I've said, whichever side of that fence you are on in terms of the regulation and the requirements, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to the rights of your opinion on whether you thought it was a good idea or whether you thought it was a bad idea. Let's get past that. Let's get together again as a collective and just sort of move forward as best we can on that. And this is a good example of that. The quilt show, well attended from the bits and pieces I heard, well received. And as for the person who took that quilt, Ken was much nicer than I would have been. I would have been, you son of a, but benefit of the doubt. I mean, Ken and Chris have taught me over the years, sometimes give the benefit of the doubt. Not everybody is immediately a scumbag. So,
except me, of course.
Sometimes honest mistakes are made, and we're looking at this right now as an honest mistake. And honest mistakes can be rectified. So if that individual, or if you know of an individual that's connected to this, just bring it in. I mean, whether you bring it in maybe to NACTV, maybe to the Neepawa Banner Press, just drop it off. No harm, no foul on this.
Yeah, there's a picture of the quilt on page 2 of the paper.
Yep.
And where the owner of the quilt is appealing that everybody be on the lookout for it, and they would like to get it back.
That's right. No harm, no foul right now. But if we're still talking about this a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, then there's malice. Then there is due ill content, as it were. And it's like, come on. We're better than that. We should be better than that. So
this week, Eoin, was a first for me, and it shows up on page 2. We were called to come out to Boston Pizza because they have now a robotic server. Mm-hmm. And I was actually there for supper with my wife and our little boy, who is now 51 years old, for his birthday. But anyway, they have a robot, and the robot will bring the plates out to the table, mm-hmm. and it's programmed, and the server comes with it. But they can bring out 8 plates on the robot instead of just 2 and maybe 1 on the other hand, yep. Or bring out 2 or 3 servers to a big table. So that's a big advantage. But the other big advantage of this silly robot that looks like a big cat, by the way, and kind of has a cat face on the screen, and it will talk to you, and but you can load it up with at least 8 patrons worth of the dirty dishes.
Yeah,
and it goes back to the kitchen by itself, and that leaves the server to clean the table or to deal with another order or whatever. So it's a big labor saver, and every restaurant that I know of is short of staff.
Yeah.
And so there's nobody going to lose their job over this, but their jobs are actually going pardon me, I'm still got a bit of a cold too, are going to be easier. And as we found out with our son last night, the robot will actually come along and sing you happy birthday. And it's not the best singing voice, but sings happy birthday. And if they have the right mode turned on, you can stroke its ears, and it gives you crap for stroking its ears. Don't stroke my ears, it'll say. Please pat my head. It's plastic, for crying out loud. It's a plastic robot, and you get sucked into talking to the stupid thing. But anyway, they're trying it out, and they'll see whether they're going to buy one. It's not a Boston Pizza thing. It's a restaurant industry thing. And but there's times when they just don't have enough staff.
Yeah. Well, again, it's one of those weird things, and I've had this conversation with people I know who work in service industries and in retail industries as well. I'm not going to name the business. I'm not going to name any organizations or individuals, but just recently was talking about some of those electronic scanners, for example, where you yourself will take your groceries and you'll scan them yourself. And many a patron to some businesses that now have them will say, well, why are you supporting the loss of co-workers' jobs? And well, you don't look at it that way, and they don't look at it that way. They look at it this way. This opens up things a little bit quicker. This allows those individuals to be working on other things, such as theft. Let's be honest, retail deals with a lot of theft under the radar, even in a small community like Neepawa. You wouldn't believe, Ken, how much gets stolen on a weekly basis in this town. It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
That makes me ashamed, really. I mean, I don't even think of it, really, but I know you're right. And it's shameful. Like, I mean, there's no need for theft. I mean, for necessities of life, we've got Salvation Army, we've got the food bank, we've got various churches that'll help look after people. But theft is simply, I'm glad that it's not as epidemic as it seems to be in larger centers, but we don't think it is. But I'm ashamed, really, that people will resort to that.
And again, it's one of those things of the people are not losing their jobs. They're being put into different sort of facets of their job. They're able to focus more on those certain things. And that's another example with the server here. I mean, don't look at it as losing jobs. Look at it as being able to make things more efficient for the server. Because the server's there to get the orders, get the food out, help with the food out, interact, make it a pleasant experience overall. You know, and bring in, if this little redundant sort of annoying part of the job, the dishes, can be taken care of in an efficient manner like this, I think that's a big step forward.
I think it's going to save the servers a lot of steps per shift.
Yeah.
And I don't know of a server in the restaurant industry yet that young or older that doesn't complain about being, having their legs and back pretty tired at the end of a shift. So it should save some stress.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's take a trip outside for the annual Parade of Lights, which we had in Neepawa recently. It was wonderful that we were able to get a few pictures in there thanks to Neepawa Tourism. They put up some wonderful pictures. Christine Waddell as well was able to get a picture on there as well as one of the floats. It was from the bits and pieces, because quite honestly, Ken, I was probably asleep when the Parade of Lights was on, because I was still about halfway through, my flu. So I was probably three quarters Benadryl, 1/4 Halls at that point in time. But from what I've heard, it was very good. It's one of those things that I'll be honest, Ken, I've never been big on it. The Parade of Lights, but that's just me. I don't like standing out in the cold looking at lights. I had to do it once. I was working for the radio station in Portage at the time, Ken, and they have a very similar Parade of Lights. Portage, unfortunately, for whatever reason, its chamber is bigger, more business, bigger city, more businesses and all that. So everybody got involved with that one. So the Parade of Lights for them was like 45 minutes. Plus I had to record it for my radio station because we do a lot of video online. So I had to be sitting out there shivering away for 45 minutes, getting all the video of all the events and all the stuff going on. So in this case, I'm very glad that our chamber is a little bit smaller because we can get it to a nice efficient 10 to 15. That's much better in my case.
Yeah. The parade was actually quite good, but you're right. Parade of Lights has its advantages, but it definitely has its disadvantages. If you don't happen to be under a street light, you have trouble reading who the float is from, which company or whatever. But one group that the float to me really stood out, and Christine got a picture of it, is the Neepawa Filipino Association.
Yeah.
And they did it a very interesting way. They had a nice truck, nice trailer, and then every family involved brought an item for the float. Somebody brought the reindeer, somebody brought the tree, lots of people brought the flashing lights, the stars, and they had 2 generators on there to run it. It was all electrified, and it was outstanding with music and everything else. It was just an outstanding float, and you could certainly see that one. You can even see in the picture in the paper that it's quite a colorful and bright float. But there were many, and to everybody's credit, it worked out well. Of course, Santa Claus brought up the rear of the parade, and I think the kids were all happy to see Santa. And there was a lot of other activities through the day as well. But there was pictures with Santa up at the Christmas wish sale, and there was a packed house at the Yellowhead for that. That's featured on page 9. And so it was a big event all day long through Neepawa, and credit to Arts Forward for doing their Christmas wish sale. Lots of vendors there, like, oh my goodness, you could buy everything from fudge to Christmas cake to Christmas decorations to felted animals. There's a lady in town here who does felting, and she makes the most realistic looking animals with felting. They look like they're going to walk away on you. They're so realistic.
It really went over very well. Like, once again, I was not there because it was the same day as I said, I was under the weather. But I've heard from other people that went down, and they really liked the sort of the variety of all the different things that were available out there, and that's a big thing. I mean, you're not going to be able to please everyone, but you're still going to try and hit as much of the masses, as wide a swath as is humanly possible. And I think they did a pretty good job from the bits and pieces I heard that they were able to do that.
Well, I'm just mad at my wife because she bought 4 trays of fudge.
Wait a minute, what? 4?
4 little trays of fudge, yeah, but they're hidden. I think they're going to be doled out to me in little tiny pieces once in a while when she feels like it.
Man, there's nothing worse than secret fudge.
Oh.
Hidden away. You don't know where it is. Because that's one of my ones. I don't have much of a sweet tooth, to be honest with you. But fudge is one of those ones that just done.
Oh yeah.
Sold. I don't know what they put in. Well, I know it's sugar and all of it, all the sugar, but it's unbelievable. So if it's done right, I'm just sold on it. So
I'm going to pull a shameless plug. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. My paper, my show, our show. We do what we want, right? Page 9, they'll see something a little different this week. We've got a half-page ad from the Neepawa Titans Hockey Club. Just thought maybe it was time we stepped it up a little bit in terms of promotion of the team, because the team doing pretty well. They've won most of their last 6 or 7 games. The goaltender has been named goaltender of the month for MGHL.
That's right. Now, if you're curious why it's not appearing in this week's edition of the paper, this announcement was made actually after we had gone to print. So you'll be seeing in next week's edition a write-up on Mason Lebreau, who was named the goaltender of the month for the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Congratulations on that. And as Ken said, the team also did very well. They went 5-2-2 for the month of November, Ken. Solid.
That's the best record they've had in years.
Yeah. And again, the thing is, and I mentioned this isn't in this week's paper either, and I hope to be able to write this story next week after a pair of wins over the Swan Valley Stampeders. The team right now, if I remember correctly, is 11, 12, 4, and 1. So I think that's 29 games. Don't make me do math. They've got like 27 points. If they win both games this weekend, Ken, it'll be the latest in the regular season. This team has had a 500 or above record in 8 years.
Yeah.
So this team is moving in the right direction here. They got a tough challenge ahead of them. The Swan Valley Stampeders are the hottest team in the the Manitoba Junior Hockey League right now. They went 7-2 actually for November. So they're going to be a big challenge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the coaching is the huge part of it. And we of course, in Neepawa, maybe a little biased. We have a lot of faith in Ken Pearson as head coach and GM. Of course, he was raised here, played hockey here, was an assistant coach right after playing hockey. And then he went away for quite a few years, a few different teams, with some marked success and some, as some coaches do, some years weren't so good. But he's back here now, and he's now in his 4th year of his contract here. He kind of almost right off the COVID year, but he's putting the team together. We've got 5 local players, and it was his ambition and aim to have 5 local players, and they do now. And so it's kind of interesting. Also, the lottery is on right now. And just as of today, we've reopened the Neepawa Titans downtown sales office, which is in the basement of the, the lower level of the Neepawa Banner Press building. And just for those who may not know, you can come in and see us at the Neepawa Banner Press at 423 Mountain Avenue. You can come in and see us about Neepawa Titans as well. And also, it's the same building in which we're recording right now, the home of NAC TV. And so we're always welcoming people to come in. If you want to bring us news stories, you want to buy stuff, that's great. If you want to buy advertising for NAC TV or for the Neepawa Banner and Press, we're also very, very happy to do that. Just bragging up the TV station to a gentleman from Alberta today who came through, and this is the only independent-owned community TV station in Manitoba. And there's very, very few left in Canada. But this one is doing pretty well. We got 4 or 5 staff, and we're making money. So I don't apologize for that.
All right, now back to the Titans as well. If you want to, go down to the arena, support them this weekend. A big pair of games against the Swan Valley Stampeders. If you're not able to be there in person, check your listings, check online for NAC TV. They broadcast every single game for the Neepawa Titans live, coinciding with Hockey TV, but pre-recorded. They're going to be right here on this channel. So check your listings. If you're not able to be there in person, you can find it on the dial. So that's very important. Hopefully you'll support the team in some way, shape, or form. We only got a few minutes left, so we're going to very quickly talk about a few front major page things we got here. We've got the Little Mermaid Junior event, NACI's big productions coming up in early December. That's going to be very interesting to see how they are able to put something like that together. As well, the online auction for the Rotary International, major fundraiser for the Neepawa Rotary Club from the 2nd to the 8th. Hopefully you'll check out that page, get some information. Maybe you'll see something you like. Maybe put in a bid on that as well. And on the back page as well, the Neepawa Banner and Press, along with the Chamber, the Shop Hometown. Each and every year we put that contest together. Seems to be getting bigger and better each and every year. So hopefully you're going to be participating in that. So even though it's a small paper, even though there's not a lot of quote-unquote news in there, there's still a lot of information in there. And I'm sure you'll find something in there that just fits for you. Before we get going, Ken, anything else you want to close out with?
Well, just something I learned over 30 years ago when we were mentored by a fellow who had been in the newspaper business for a long time. And he says, Kenny, you got to remember, he says, news are ads too, or ads are news too. Because what's in the advertising may well be news to the reader. And that's the whole purpose of advertising, is to provide new information to people about what's available in your community. And I think with COVID and the travel restrictions and all that kind of stuff that we had, Shop Hometown is even more important than it was before. And then when we have a lot of people coming into the office here from surrounding towns, but also in Neepawa, who said, well, I'm glad you've got this or that, and I'm sure other stores are hearing that too, because now I don't have to drive to Brandon or Winnipeg, and I can get that here. And so kudos to the local businesses that are able to keep stock or be able to readily bring in stock for things that people would have to drive 50 or 100 miles to go get. Otherwise, saves them time, saves them money, and keeps the money locally.
That's right. Well, once again, thank you very much. I think we're down to our last 5 or 10 here for the story behind the stories. So thank you as always, Ken. Always appreciate it. and always appreciate you taking a little bit of time and watching right here on NAC TV. Have a good day.